Hi friends, it's Janine Richards from Q101. Welcome to The Tour Life. Grab your all-access pass and join me behind the scenes of the music industry. Together, we'll discover how to live happier and healthier lives doing what we love. Today's guest is a guitar tech and graphic designer who has worked with artists such as Jenny Lewis, Gossip, The Kills, and Bruno Mars. You can find him on Instagram at @NickOutTheJams. Here is my conversation with the seasoned and hellishly gritty Nick Bataran. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
It's going really well. I haven't seen you in a really long time. When's the last time we saw each other?
A little over 3 years ago. Would have been the last time.
Yeah, and that was with
Jenny Lewis.
Jenny, yeah. Yeah, so what have you been up to ever since?
After Jenny Lewis, I was kind of home for a while. I had a weird medical thing where I lost the use of my hand. I think like 4 months after the last tour that we did with Jenny Lewis, after the last date or whatever.
I vividly remember that. So could you tell me what ended up, like how that started, what ended up happening?
Well, it was pretty messed up. Like I was working at this crappy graphic design place around here that was only like 3 days a week, and it was just the worst situation. It was a tiny small room and there was only 4 people in it, and like the main couple or whatever, like they were going through a divorce or something, and they would just like pit you in between them, and it was just like the worst situation you could ever think of. So like it was just crappy. Got out of work, went to go meet some friends at a bar that's pretty close to where the place was. So we went there, and then I went home. I fell asleep on the couch watching SVU, and just woke up in the morning at like 6:30 or 8:30 a.m. and I went to go grab the glass of water that I had next to me, and my hand just knocked it over. And I was just kind of like, what? Why did that not work? That's really strange. And then I figured out that my hand just wasn't working. And I was like, what's going on here?
Could you feel it?
No, it just felt, I mean, I could feel my hand there, you know, but you couldn't move it. I couldn't work it. It looked like this, you know, just drop down. And so it kind of freaked me out. And then I was like, all right, I'm just going to go back to bed because this is weird. Am I dreaming? I don't know. So I went back to sleep and then like woke up later and like it still wasn't working. And I was like, this is super strange. And I just kind of sat there throughout the day. Like maybe I texted a couple friends, like my friend Nikki. Maybe I asked her like, what would be the reason that my hand wouldn't work? And then like I put it on Facebook because I was like, this is strange. Did I have a stroke? You know?
Yeah, I remember that.
I was like, what would be the reasons that your hand wouldn't work? Go. You know, like, and everybody was like, what? I have no idea. That's so strange. So the next day I went to the ER. I'm still super worried because it's not working, and like right as soon as like somebody saw me, they're like, oh, radial nerve palsy. It's fine, whatever. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, yeah, radial nerve palsy. No big whoop. Happens all the time.
It's just casual, like whatever.
Yeah. So what it is I just fell asleep kind of on my chest on the couch with my arm off the couch on the floor. That's just how I rolled over when I was watching TV, because I lay on my left side watching the TV. And just woke up, and throughout when I was sleeping, I angered a nerve. And when you anger a nerve, like it burns from the center out. And then like you ever wake up and your arm's kind of asleep? It's kind of the same situation. Or if you fall asleep next to a significant other and they're falling asleep on your arm at like a certain pressure point, and it kind of angers the arm, and you're like, you know, you have to get your arm out of there or whatever. It's just kind of like that. So it just burned from the center out.
Wow.
And then there was literally, you can't do anything to help it along to get it back. So it was literally like waiting months for it to heal itself back up.
And that had to be really scary. I mean, share what you do. What is it that you do? Because I'm pretty sure you use your hands.
Well, I'm a guitar tech, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I've been playing guitar my whole life, and I'm also a graphic designer. So, I mean, art is also my entire life, whether it's actually using paintbrushes or a computer mouse. But have you ever tried to use a computer mouse with your left hand?
Yeah, I'm right-handed, so
doesn't really work.
How did that feel? I mean, like just waking up and being like, oh my God, like this is my livelihood. Like this is what I do. What the?
It's one of those things like, it's either going to drive you crazy or you just got to roll with it, man. So that literally was it. It was like, just roll with it. So instead of using a computer mouse to like do artwork with, I'd have to use my left hand and use a trackpad. And it was super frustrating. And again, I was inside this like tiny little office, like doing graphic design that's no bigger than the size of my living room. It's actually smaller. But like there's only 4 people sitting in there quiet making artwork. So like I'm frustratingly using my left hand on a trackpad, and I keep like, you know, swearing just out loud uncontrollably because it's really annoying, you know, like fuck, fuck, fuck. So it's kind of weird.
Wow. So how did that affect your work?
Well, I mean, I obviously couldn't go back out on tour, you know, or anything because I couldn't use my right hand. What could I do? You know, if you don't have a right hand and you're right-handed, like you're pretty much, you know, dead in the water. You can't set up a stage or like, you know, even change strings on a guitar or even tune it or play it or anything. So what happens like when like something like that suddenly happens? Like what do you do? Like what's the first thing you do, and like how do you go about handling it? Panic and just worry about pills. So that was like pretty much it. Is like, you know, your initial panic, like my hand doesn't work, and then you just kind of accept it. Like, well, how am I going to pay my bills? And then you're like, well, I guess just work as hard as you can with what you got. And hopefully it'll come back eventually.
And did they give you like a time frame?
Yeah, but I mean, what did they say initially? It was like 2 or 3 months. I start to be able to get like dexterity in it back, and then like a few months after that, then I'd probably get the whole thing back.
How did that line up with the tour you were on at the time?
I was just at home. I wasn't on tour because I'd like finished up the Jenny Lewis thing, and then being a guitar tech, like people don't go through and recycle guitar techs. You know, once you work for a band, you pretty much work for that band unless something goes wrong or it doesn't, you know, mesh between the two of you. So I finished up that Jenny Lewis cycle, and then I was just home. So I was home doing graphic design, just freelance, and then that happened, and that was like, I think January or something when it happened, so I couldn't get like another tour. I couldn't take another tour because I didn't have all my limbs.
That is so wild. Oh my gosh. And then, so how did it feel when it started getting better? Like, how did you know, like, oh, okay, it's gone up and I'm over the hump?
You just started noticing, you know, I had like a brace like at first that I would have on my wrist to hold my hand up, you know. And then eventually I could control my fingers a little bit more and start to use it a little bit more, so I stopped wearing the brace. And then like you test yourself, you know, you try to pick up the coffee cup. Then you feel brave, and then you just knock it over and you get coffee everywhere, and it sucks. You know? You have to clean it up with your left hand.
Oh, that's funny.
But just like eventually, like it started to come back, and you just kind of noticed it. Yeah. I could hold this or that.
That's good, and then, you know, it's just gradual, and then you just get better at it. And so, wow, that's really, really amazing. And so, what was the whole process?
Pretty strange.
Like, how long did it take?
I'm trying to remember. It took quite a while for it to like really get back, and it's still not. I'll never get it back. I can't remember what I said, but so the way they kind of explained it to me is when you anger the nerve and it kind of burns itself out from the center, it's sort of like a milk dud, and that there's the center core and then there's an outer shell to your nerve. and you burn it out from that, and while you're asleep, mind you. And if you sleep too long and you burn out too far, you get to that outer shell, and once you get through that, that's when you actually get permanent damage. So the funny thing is, so
wow, that's
I went
insane.
to the ER or whatever, and then I went to this outpatient specialist, and the outpatient specialist, quote unquote, and I'm at a time where I'm searching for answers and like wanting to get all this information because it's my hand. So I go to her, and she has no idea what the hell I'm talking about, none whatsoever. So we talk for about 20 minutes, and I'm sweating, and I'm starting to like panic. Like, she has no clue what I'm talking about. I spent like my last $150 like going to see this lady, and then she walks out of the room. 10 minutes later, comes back in. She's like, "Oh, you have radial nerve palsy," and just gives me the IMDb, WebMD, basic synopsis description of what it is. And I'm just like, really? You just walked out of the room and Google searched that? Yeah. Whatever.
Probably.
Eventually, I think she left the room, and I got up and
so
left.
what did she say after? She's just like,
I was like, I can't believe I wasted not only my last few dollars, but like all my hope and prayers, like
a waste,
are all just squashed. And then, so I was talking to a friend of mine, Brittany. She's a bartender around here that we've been working together for years, and she had just gotten married like a year before. Well, her husband is a doctor and specializes in things like this. Like he does, I don't know, different stuff around the city, but he knows all about it. Like, he knew straight away when I was texting her that first day, like, what it was, radial nerve palsy, and I was like, what? Whatever. So eventually I was like, okay, he's a real doctor. So I met with him, and he told me everything about it, and he's the one that gave me the time frame on when it was going to heal, what exactly I did to burn out the nerve or whatever, and what I can do to kind of, because there's no physical therapy you can do for that. The only thing you could do is like exercises and things for your hand to keep the muscle working. Because think about it, like when you have a cast on your arm and you're not using it for 2 months or whatever till you get that cast off, then your arm is just super weak and it sucks, right? Exactly. So he just gave me stuff like that and gave me a time frame.
Yeah, the mind muscle connection.
Well, I didn't know until months later, like 5 or 6 months later, I'm at the bar where she works, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, yeah, I still can't use my hand that much. Like, it's still just not there. I still get pains sometimes. She's like, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you, but he said when we left that you were probably never going to get it back. I was like, what? And at first I was like a little bit pissed. I was like,
what?
Really? Why didn't... And then I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find out what the hell's going on with my hand and when I'm going to get it back. If he was to tell me at that point in time that I probably wouldn't get it back fully, ever, that's... Your hope is just broken at that point, So he didn't tell me that
break a person
until later, but... So that's the thing. So I didn't go back out on tour until... This happened January, I think? And I didn't go back on a tour till December. And that was like my... It was like my test. Like, how's it going to work? It
was almost a solid year. Yeah.
But like, I have enough of it back that I can use it and I can go out on tour. And I've done a few things, but it hurts. For sure.
Wow, that's amazing. It was funny because I'm a teacher, and I teach Spanish, but the German teacher, she got shingles over the summer, and same thing. I mean, not same thing, but it was nerve pain, because that's what shingles does, and she lost like all the strength in her, like on one side of her body. And just, it's just been like really frustrating. But they basically just told her, like eventually it'll come back, but we don't know. Yeah. Wow. That's wild. Oh man. Well, so let's back up and tell me how you got into music in the first place. And I know you're in Detroit, and there's lots of awesome stuff happening in Detroit.
I have no idea. I'm an old guy, and I'm completely out of touch, so I can't tell you anything current in the music scene.
Oh.
I mean, I got into music when I was a kid.
But how'd you get in it?
I don't really remember what point. I was super into like Metallica and stuff like that, and I had 2 older sisters I'm the accident, so I'm the super young one. So they were like a lot older than me. So older sisters listening to music, older sisters' boyfriends coming around the house, like chasing them. They're all listening to Metallica and stuff like that. So I got into music, stuff like that, when I was really, really young. And I think that's about the point when I wanted to start, like, learn to play guitar. And got the guitar for Christmas and stuff like that. And just got into it that way. And my whole family, my mom is really into music, you know, like, she was into, like, Crazy World of Arthur Brown and, you know, Bob Dylan and stuff in the 60s. And going to the Grandy Ballroom and all that. My uncles were too. And so we've always kind of been around music.
So what are some was there anything that like once you started touring and like helping your friends out and stuff, how was your perception of what it was like to work in the industry at the time when you first started? How has it evolved over time?
Oh man, like the first like real pro gig like that I ever got was through my ex-wife. She tours, and she got this gig with the Kills, and she needed a guitar tech. She's like, "Do you want a guitar tech for us?" So it was like, "Yeah, totally," you know. So we could go out and tour together, and so that was like the first real pro gig that I ever did. And how it's changed from that point in time to like now is just a world apart, you know. At first, it was just me, her, Jamie, and Allison, you know, flying around the world and doing these gigs. You know, and it was just the 4 of us, so it was like a little family touring around. And like it, you know, how I tour now is a completely different thing. Like I was just a kid back then. You know, I was drinking before the shows and like stuff like that, and it's just completely different.
How?
Just a totally different mindset. That it wasn't... I was living this, like, dream life of, like... It was just the 4 of us touring. So anything they did, we also did, too. So... And they're also, like, one of the coolest bands in the world, you know? So everybody's taking them out and giving them stuff and, like, all this. So we were also doing that, too. Like, we were... I don't know, it's kind of like weird to like explain publicly. Like just the things that we did just now seem just so stupid. And if any other band was like, "Hey, do you want to go hang out with X, you know, insert model name here and giant movie star," now I would be like, "No, it's fine, I'm just gonna stay in my room, you know, just chill out. Like you guys do your thing, whatever." But back then
But at the time you were like, didn't. I'm in.
Yeah.
Wow. So okay, so it was really wild. So kind of like I guess the impression that the majority of people have of the industry as a whole, that they think it's all just like fun and games. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like now that I kind of understand that there's so much more that happens behind the scenes. It's really forcing it to be more of like a very serious business. Like, am I off?
It is serious once you get serious with it. You know, like once I got serious with it, then everything changed. You know, I don't know. There's different levels of touring, and depending on you and how you conduct yourself, you can get to other levels, or you can just be stuck at the same level all the time, you know? And I talked to... Once you kind of realize that and figure it out, like... I've talked to lots of techs that they've always been stuck at this one certain level and never really get beyond it. And I've been the same way. Like, I was always stuck at this one certain level and can never get to the next, like, the bigger level, the Death Cab for Cutie. Like, if that makes sense. Like, touring with Beck or something. Like, that's like the next level up, you know, from where we were with Jenny Lewis and whatnot.
And so how did you figure out, like, kind of, you know, like what needs to change, or like, I mean, I don't understand.
I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to explain. It's easy for me to figure out because at first I was like I said, drinking before and during shows. I'd have my band beer stash and my own beer stash. You know, like, that is so completely not an okay thing. Like, once you actually take it to, like, the next level of it actually being a real job or whatever. But once I kind of, like, figured that out when I was with Gossip, and then figured out even, you know, took it more serious and kept taking it more serious and whatever. And then after, well, in the middle of Gossip, when I was out with them, like, I went out with Bruno Mars, and that was like boot camp. Everything I learned was out the window. Then it was literally like boot camp. And it was just an entirely different thing, different way of viewing touring with a band.
Is everything just, like, kind of more tight and structured and
yeah, like longer hours, tight and structured. It was just, everything changed. Then it was if you weren't 15 minutes early to lobby call, you were already late. You know? And then if you came 1 minute after the actual lobby call, they were already gone. You know? That never happened to me, like, thankfully. But I've seen it happen to other people. And, you know, then they have to take an hour and a half Uber to get to the venue because it's a giant stadium. You know, that's way outside of the city.
yeah, that makes you look bad.
Yeah,
huh?
very.
Ooh, yeah, I don't want to be the one left after bus call. Dang. So what bands have you toured with? Because I obviously know about, like, Jenny and Gossip. I know you're pretty. Are you close? You're close to Beth?
I mean, we used to be, like, a lot more, but
A lot of it.
After the tour stopped, she's had her own career, and it's
Yeah, she lives, like, across the country in Portland.
Yeah, Portland.
So.
And it's grown even more in her solo career, and now she's doing, like, she's acting. She's doing she has a TV show on Showtime right now that just came out, which I haven't watched yet because I don't have Showtime. But it looks pretty cool.
I know. I haven't had time to watch it, but I know it's with Kirsten Dunst. I did see that. Yeah, that's cool. Wow. So what's something that you really enjoy about touring? Like, what keeps you doing it?
Keeps me touring? I mean, I love traveling. Absolutely love it. Terrible at flying. Love traveling. If that makes sense.
What do you mean?
Just a huge fear of flying.
What? You have a huge fear of
massive.
flying, but your job requires that you fly all over the world.
Really stupid. Like, with Gossip, we were, like, living at the Grosvenor House, or the Westin Vendôme in Paris, and, like, we would fly over there. We'd be over there for, like, a week, and then we'd fly home, and then we'd fly over there, and we'd be over there for, like, a week, and then we'd fly home. Tons of, like, travel, but it freaks me out. Hate it.
Wow, how do you cope with that? Like, when you have a fear of flying, like, what process do you go through in order to just make it through the flight?
Sometimes, man, it gets really bad. Like, but usually, I mean, a couple glasses of airport wine, and if your bro's got a Xanax, that's A plus, you know. But, like, it's gotten really bad. I remember one time I can't remember what band it was with. I think with Jenny Lewis. But this plane just. It was a weird plane that, like, you felt everything, and it was, like, super turbulence when we were taking off. So, like, I immediately, like, grabbed the seat, and I'm shaking so bad. This, like, little Asian man next to me, this, like, really old man, he looked over at me, and he just, like, he grabbed my hand, and he just kind of nodded at me, like, it's okay. He couldn't speak, like, any English at all, but he did that, and I was like, Thanks, bud. Felt better.
That reminds me of New Girl. Did you ever see the Menzies episode where Nick... Do you watch New Girl?
In the beginning I did, but I kind of fell out with it.
So Nick is like the one who's like ends up dating Jess, Zoe Deschanel's character. But there's an episode where basically it's about Zoe and like how she's like on her period and she's all emotional and stuff. But then like Nick gets it too, sort of. So he goes and sits on a bench next to this like old Asian man. And the guy literally says nothing the entire episode, but Nick is just like pouring.
Right, I remember it became like a recurring character, right? The little man on the bench or whatever.
Yeah, the little.
Like he would always like come back
yeah.
and just like bitch about shit or whatever to him. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and then like they went to the spa and like cradled him like a baby. That was you and the man on the plane.
Yes, it was. Funny that we're both named Nick.
And so. What?
Well, Nick from...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was like, wait. I'm like, the old man was named Nick?
No.
What? No, yeah, your name's Nick, obviously, duh. Wow, that's so cool. So, okay, so flying... So where have you been? What's, like, the best... Like, what's the worst and also, like, the best place you've been? And I'm not saying, like, you know, talk crap about countries, but I just mean, like, where did you have, like a negative experience where, like, you'd like to go back and have a more positive one?
I mean, there was, like, weird things that you saw that were just like, this is not okay. Let me think. Indonesia, Jakarta? Yeah, Jakarta. And I've gone there a couple times. Like, they always put you up at this Ritz-Carlton that's there, which is, like, it's Ritz-Carlton, but it's not. It could be Hilton. But it's like right in the middle of just like Shacktown. Not a very good area, and it was just super depressing. And I think that was the one, the Ritz-Carlton that they like bombed the lobby in like 2006 or 2007. This would have been 2011 that we were there. But there was like a terrorist attack on the hotel because of just like where they put up this giant Ritz-Carlton in the middle of like Shacktown old neighborhood of
like the slums, basically, right?
It's just kind of strange, like seeing stuff like that, and then weird Filipino brothels in the hotel. You know, like I don't know. I don't like that stuff. So like seeing that stuff around like Southeast Asia kind of sucked.
Wow. So how do you get by in Southeast Asia? Do a lot of people speak English? Do you need to speak that much to people?
You don't, I guess. Yeah, I guess we really didn't talk to that many people. I don't know. I
do find that interesting because I know that English is English, so most people speak English around the world, but so we're definitely very spoiled. But I mean, if it's like in the middle of basically like the slums, it's like maybe just the people at the hotel speak English, and then not everybody else.
I mean, we didn't really go out and like explore that much. Kuala Lumpur, I guess we did. We walked around for a while, but I mean, I remember just kind of staying around the hotels, not really doing much.
Is that what happens a lot?
Yeah, depending on where you are. Like if it's, with Bruno Mars, like he's really big in the Philippines, so we'd be like off at all these strange little towns like I've never been to, but the hotels that we stay in are kind of compounds. They have everything you're gonna want, and usually the venue's like attached to it too. So we wouldn't leave the hotel. We just stay in the hotel. There's no real reason to leave. You're only there for a couple days.
Yeah, it's like staying at a resort, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So it's like, so what about some cool places? Because you did a lot of stuff in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. And like mountain stuff and things like that. Tell me some of that, because I've just seen such pretty Instagram pictures and videos of southern France.
We just did this one little festival that's way up in the Swiss Alps. I don't even really know the name of where it was. There was like this huge dam and so it made this big lake, at the top of it or whatever. But it's really hard to explain. But it's all the photos you've ever seen of the Swiss Alps must have been from around there. It was just absolutely the most beautiful thing in the world, and it's a festival way up at the top of the mountains that people go to. So it's like a thing that they do, It was just, and we thought it was weird that we were playing there, but it's like a thing. And I guess a lot of stoner rock bands play. So I'm wearing my Sleep shirt, but Sleep played there, and Ohm played there, and so it's well known. A lot of people have done it. I never heard about it before in my life, but it was just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's just refreshing.
Wow. Yeah, it really fascinates me, to follow people, just on social media and see all the different places that they go, and just all these festivals that are just random. I feel like there's just so much out there.
Yeah, there's the European festival, European summertime touring is just so weird. I didn't even know that I've been to Serbia. You remember Nam from Jenny Lewis? Well, he's Serbian, and so he's all about Serbia, right? I thought I'd just never been to Serbia, and he's like, "No, I've seen you on videos. You've been there." I'm like, "What?" And he's showing me these videos of Gossip playing in Serbia, and I'm like, "Oh, I guess I did." It was a festival called Exit, I think. But I've been there half a dozen times, and for some reason I just had no clue that it was in Serbia. For some reason, I have no idea.
Does that happen? You kind of do you sometimes find yourself you're kind of lost, you don't even know where you are, what time it is, what day it is? Well, actually, because we talked, and you're I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, you just kind of lose track. You just lose track of where exactly you are, because when it's all these festivals, they all look the same. It's just a backstage, whatever. When's lunch? That's the only thing you really need to know. When's lunch? When's dinner? What's our set time? So when you're on a string of those things, you just kind of lose track.
So what's it like to be home?
Super weird adjusting. Depending on how much you do it, you get super used to it. But when you're not doing it as much, after the hand thing, the word of mouth kind of stops, and I don't go out as much. I don't have as much touring to do, so I haven't gone to Europe in years. Before we just went with Gossip a couple months ago, and so coming back from that, it's weird adjusting just to home life and going back to graphic design and things like that. Now I have to go to the supermarket to buy food. We don't have a rider here. This kind of sucks. Things like that.
Yeah, you have to think about what you're gonna eat because it's not.
Yeah, you have to be an adult. It's the worst.
Adulting is really hard, honestly. Gosh, man. So when you're home, obviously you have to get back into doing all the normal things and stuff. And you said that you're into graphic design. So is that your business thing? Do you freelance? Or is that mostly how does that, tell me more about that? I don't really know a whole lot about that.
It really depends on how you do it, but I work for this company that here in Ferndale, Michigan, where I live, I mainly work for them, and they own now 3 restaurants in downtown Ferndale. So, and their restaurants are super popular and whatever. There's monthly menu takeovers, so we do posters and things like that, but that's mainly the people that I work for when I'm home.
Yeah, so you kind of just can build a relationship, I guess, with a group that has lots of stuff going on, and then you kind of just become their go-to. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. So have you, is there any projects that you're really excited about as far as that goes at the moment?
Right now, today, I've been working all day. Wish I didn't have to stare at a computer screen while I'm doing this. But I worked for, I'm doing an album cover for a friend's band that I've been trying to just make this weird collage thing work out, but it's not really working out, so I don't know. It's a lot of staring at screens. It's really boring. It's a really boring job.
What's your process?
No one's ever asked me. I don't know.
Well, take it step by step. So let's see. So somebody approaches you and they're like, "Hey, Nick, like, I've got this idea, and like, this is what my band's about." Then what?
If they have an idea, that's cool. I'll just run with it and make something. But if they don't have an idea, that's kind of more difficult because I have to come up with something, you know. So I just kind of think about maybe if I had an idea that I wanted to use that just popped into my head for something else, it was like, oh, that'd fit perfectly here, you know, and then I just kind of go about making it or whatever. Just, I don't know, it's all coming up with an idea.
And how do you, like, do you do any, like, sketching on paper, or, like, are you, like, do you go straight to the computer? Like, how, like, what do you do? Like, for someone who,
that's
like,
the whole thing
has
with
no
the
idea about
hand.
it.
There's not much
Right.
sketching on paper. Alright. The nerve thing, the nerve that I damaged is possibly somewhere by my neck or shoulder, but it connects to my pointer finger, you know, which kind of controls everything when you're thinking about it on your main hand, like holding a pencil or a paintbrush, things like that. So through the whole process of the radial nerve palsy and losing my hand and then trying to build it back up and whatnot, I've kind of developed my own, it's deep, phobia of like writing and things. So actually I want to sit down and sketch stuff, and I might like try to or whatever, but I don't do it seriously. But yeah, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing. It's a mental thing.
Does it scare you that you may not be able to create something? What do you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, but I don't let it scare me anymore. I just might not do certain things, like sketching.
So what would happen? So what happens when you do try it? How does it feel? Like, how does that phobia actually feel?
Well, how does it physically feel, or like mentally?
Yeah,
Because it
both.
physically hurts.
Physically
Yeah.
hurts, and so
It's the same thing with the guitar
mentally,
picking. Like, you never notice how many small parts are on a guitar, or like small things that you work with, like guitar jacks and things, which is like the size of a pencil, right? Tuning pegs, you know, they're tiny. Little guitar strings, putting those in. You know. The easiest part is carrying in the giant guitar amp. The hardest part is everything else, to my hand at least.
Yeah, all the fine motor movement.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, like how you're saying this word phobia, and you know that's a pretty intense word. So I kind of want to understand.
I develop phobias of everything. It's really easy. Like flying.
That's true, flying. But so flying, what helps you with flying is maybe someone reassuring you, right? A nice old Asian man.
That and a nice, you know, glass of bread. That
And a nice glass of bread,
helps.
right? Yeah, just a little relaxation. Is there anything you found that helps you kind of when you're trying to be creative and you get really frustrated? Like, are there any tools you've started using, like whether they're like emotional tools, just like things that you say to yourself to kind of get you back?
It's not so much like coming up with the idea that's frustrating. It's getting the idea out and into a actual, you know, forming it. That's really hard sometimes, because unless you're like somebody like Shepard Fairey he's obviously, you know, Shepard Fairey, and he's got his gig, right? He's got his style that he does. If you don't necessarily have that yet, it's hard to figure out how to get from your head to, you know, a computer screen or a piece of paper. Like, how do you go about making this look like this? You know, that's kind of the more difficult thing. And it's easy to like, because that can take like hours, man, like 14 hours to just figure out the right way to like to do it. And you might lose your entire idea that you had before that in that amount of time. That's kind of, you know,
like it evolves, or like you kind of just lose it.
Well, no, I mean, if you're like spending so much time like trying to make this something look like how you want it in your head, you might lose the focus that you had of the idea to get it there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Like you overthink it to death,
Totally.
basically.
So that's kind of where it was today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah? What would happen today?
That was all I was doing all day.
That exactly. Oh, yeah. Because you said you were working all day on the same project,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Huh. Wow. So, you know, something that's been happening to me lately, which, oh my gosh, and I'm so exhausted. Like, I'm actually sleep deprived. I know this camera doesn't make me look sleep deprived. Must be the lighting, but...
yeah, it's a really beautifully lit room.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, you have like that ring light thing in front of you.
I do, yeah. No, I
look
don't.
terrible
It's actually just
in
like
this.
my ceiling light.
Yeah, right.
But okay, so this is what's been happening to me, and tell me if this ever happened to you, because I googled it and it's called Creative Insomnia. But basically, what I've been just waking up earlier and earlier. Like it started with like 5 a.m. when I could sleep in until 6, right? And then then it got like earlier and earlier. And today it was 3:54. I got up and I was like, and I just couldn't go back to sleep. And I know it has to do with the fact that AM, yeah. And I know that it has, I know what I'm thinking of in the morning, right? I'm thinking about like episode ideas, or like, just like creative stuff, or like, oh, just check my stats, or like I need to post something. So it's definitely, I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. But like, it freaking sucks. Like I need to sleep and I don't know how to handle it. Do you experience that ever with like, just being an artist?
Yeah, but I think I do. I mean, you have a son, so that's totally different than me, but I don't have anything to like wake up or go to bed or whatever to. So it goes the opposite way for me. So like I won't go to sleep until like noon or something sometimes, but like I know I have to do something by like, I got to be up by 2 p.m. So
you stay up all night,
and then
basically.
I force myself to like get up. So I'll finally go to sleep at like, like I said, noon or something, and then force myself to get up because I have to be a productive human being at some point. So at 2 p.m. or something, I'll make myself get up. But then I keep doing it like days in, days out, and then like by the end of the week, I'm just a zombie because I'm not sleeping at all.
But you think it's just like a creative thing? Like people, like when you get excited about a project, it's just like you can't stop thinking about it?
Kind of creative / work ethic, I guess, that you have to work, so you have to, it in the back of your head, so you force yourself to get up or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy trying to shut things down. So do you ever have you figured out a way to shut things down? Like when you get back from tour or something and like you just want to like recuperate?
I have no idea. I have never been able to figure that out. No. It's just, I'll get a box of red wine and SVUs on the TV and
That's a good way to shut off your brain, right?
I'll watch that. Or Dave Chappelle has like a new
show.
thing
No.
out.
Yeah, his stand-up. I've heard great things. I still haven't watched it because I've been working really hard.
It's pretty good.
Oh, that's great.
But then like getting myself to like stop thinking about something, or if like today I'm stuck in my head all day on this album cover, and eventually I just had to like stop because I knew we had this going on, so I was like I'll just sit and look at Instagram for a minute or something. But it's slippery slopes. Like you have to keep working. You have to kind of get out of your head sometimes, but I'll also get in like this string where I'm stuck out of my head and I'm not getting back into the work. There's too much TV happening. There's too much Dave Chappelle. Too much SVU. Like me specifically, I work from home, and I don't have like a time frame or anything. I know when I need something done, but I don't have 6 p.m. clock out. Did you get it? Cool. All right. Go home. And everything, I'm still trying to figure it out because I'm not used to it, I guess. But everything's a marathon on TV. There's always SVU on 24 hours a day. So it's easy to lose track of time. Like, how many episodes have I watched just like a zombie? What time of day is it? You know, like, so it's easy to fall into that habit. Or like that hole. I guess not even a habit, a hole.
Oh man. So I actually saw, and The Office is like the same thing, right? And
oh, yeah.
I saw this article. It said something about like some billions of hours that people had spent streaming. I think it was billions. Like, I don't think I'm exact. Oh, here it is. 52 billion minutes of The Office streamed in 2018 or 2019 or something.
Do you remember how the song went? When Steve Carell was leaving the show, and they're like, 500. They sing that song, how many minutes he's been at The Office.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It just made me, sorry.
Oh, that's hilarious. No, but yeah, I totally get that. So it's like, so actually we've been talking for a while, and it's been really awesome. And so, what I want to know also is there anything that anybody told you that kind of really helped you manage life on the road and getting back home and making the transitions, or just being able to like survive, with a job that's kind of volatile?
Trying to think. I don't think anyone's ever given me like advice on that. It was just kind of figuring it out.
So what have you learned?
I mean, the same thing I told you, like when I started this career, and then now in this career, like how my work ethic is, vastly different than it was way back then. It's the same thing. It goes hand in hand, like trying to figure out road life, how to stay mentally healthy in it, and physically healthy too.
What about like relationships and stuff, and like involving other people in your life? How does that work?
I mean, it's really hard because obviously I'm 38 and single, so I've never had a relationship that worked, right? But it's really hard figuring that out. Like, it takes both people to really understand that one person can't be there at home, and the other person is, and that's weird. I don't know. I still haven't figured that one out. But having relationships at home, like just friend relationships, that's really tough because you're gone for like a month, and then you get back and everybody thinks, oh my god, you've been like, how everybody imagines that tour life is. That's what everybody thinks that you're off doing, but you're not. You're just off working, kind of lonely on a tour bus, so that's kind of a hard one too. Sometimes you go out and you come back and things happen in life that you can't change, but changes your entire world, and that's kind of a really rough thing to deal with. And that happened to you, right? While you were gone? Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. And that was really rough because it was my friend that she was always the first person to text me when I got back, like, Bataran, you're home. Let's go. Let's go to the bar, get a beer. Because I'd always be gone. So that was a really hard one to deal with. And at the time, at that point in my life, like, I was trying not to hang out as much and whatever. So instead of going to hang out with her that night when I got back, I cleaned my kitchen floor. Like, So, and
You're trying to be responsible.
yes, I was trying to come back off. That was the day I got back off tour. I was trying to come back and be like, all right, be responsible. Don't go in that, like, go out all the time and, like, hang out with your friends thing. Like, I was trying to figure that out. And then everything changed.
Yeah. And so, do you mind me asking kind of what, like, just in general, like you lost a friend, right?
Yeah.
So I know it's difficult coming back. You're gone, right? You don't know what's going on. Like, if you're in another time zone, it's hard to communicate with people. Like, and I'm sure, a few years ago it was even harder because there wasn't Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yeah, it was a lot worse. And when you did use your phone, you paid for it. I remember those, like, $700 bills, and I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah, $700. Jeez.
Mine was like $50 more this month, and I was like, dude, that sucks. But no, like $700, that was way worse.
Wow. Well, and actually, have you seen Rocko's Modern Life? The new, so I'm a millennial, right? So there's a show on Nickelodeon called Rocko's Modern Life, and they did a remake, but the whole thing was that, like, when it ended, like 20 years ago, or 20 years, I don't even know. I feel like I don't even know. But anyway, it ended like a while ago.
But I never really watched.
Yeah, it was like a 90s show. Yeah. But anyway, when they ended, they were, like, stuck up in space for, like, however many years, and then now it's 2019, and then they came back down, and, like, the world was just, like, completely different. Mm-hmm. And is that kind of like how it feels sometimes for you?
That's a good explanation. Because that's kind of how it feels. You come down, you land, and you go home, and everything's weird. And I've noticed that in Ferndale where I live, like, it, for some reason, like, it used to be years. It used to be being my friend and a few others, and we'd always hang out at this one bar, Sneakers, by my house. And we'd always have our corner. There was nobody ever around. It was always just us hanging out or whatever. And then it felt like this town just blew up the past 2 years ago. And now each time I leave and come back, it feels different. There's like a different vibe around the town. It's very strange. Like last year when I left, I came back and it seemed like Fridays and Saturdays were nuts around here. Like it was just people everywhere, just having a time. And then this time I left and I came back and it felt like there was nobody.
It's like the Twilight Zone.
That's so strange.
Wow. And you don't notice things, right? When you're in it and you see it every day, you're like, you don't notice that change, right? But yeah, I mean, but if you're out, I feel like it's more obvious.
Yeah. If you leave for a while and then come back and everything's just weird and you're like, what happened?
Wow, that's amazing. So what's something that, have you thought about, how people who know you, who are, who you've had relationships with, or like your family, just friends, acquaintances, is there anything that you wish they understood about what you do and how your life is that you think could help, kind of, maintain relationships? Have you ever thought about that?
No, I guess I never did. Like with touring?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we don't, when we're outside, we don't really know what you go through, like you said, we think you're out there living the life and we don't get it. So like how can we get it? Like what can we do to be more helpful yeah.
That's a kind of a weird one. I guess, I don't know, like sometimes you leave and you come back and you've been gone for like over a month or something maybe. People just have been going about their lives for a month, right? And every once in a while, like you guys communicate on social media or whatever, but you become really disconnected. And I think that's kind of a big thing, like disconnection. Like I was gone so much and I've been doing it for so long, I became disconnected, with everybody around town. So I don't really ever leave my house that much. I might leave once a week to like go out or something. Might. But I don't know. Sometimes I won't leave for a while, And then before that I was compensating for it, so I'd be out all the time, just trying to be back in people's lives. That is kind of a strange thing, and that's something that I really haven't fully grasped, like disconnection.
Yeah, I feel like communicating about it can be a little weird too, right? Because
it's openly saying something out loud that that you were subconsciously thinking of and doing, but you don't necessarily want to say it, So it is kind of a little strange.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think something that we can all work on is, communicating better, communicating our needs, trying to not be, I guess, ashamed for, communicating what we need and really thinking about that.
Yeah.
And, just being more open to understanding, like that we're all going through different experiences, and it's really about not so much like trying to put yourself in their shoes, because you really can't, but more like hearing people out and asking.
Yeah, if you've never been on tour, you can't. I don't think there's any way that anybody could really comprehend that. And when I did it for so many years, without a significant other at home or anything like that, that I just I fell into this like routine of like just sort of shutting off on normal communication. Like I don't normally communicate because I don't necessarily have the time when I'm on tour or whatever, when I'm sitting on a tour bus. So I don't communicate with people back home, and that's how you kind of like you fall into this the disconnection like I kind of had. I don't know, it's a weird one. It's a weird thing to like really grasp.
Yeah.
And like handle.
I think I think a nice goal for all of us could be maybe to just kind of maybe ask. I don't know. It sounds like such a simple thing, right? Like not assume what you need. More like just, ask like, hey, hope you're doing okay. If you need anything, whatever. Or what do you think?
No, I don't think necessarily that, but I don't know. Because asking could just kind of get annoying. Like imagine if you had like, a really hard day, or it's been like a 14-hour drive and you just want to get the hell off that bus or whatever. Like if I was in a relationship.
So space?
And not necessarily space, but
no?
Just understanding that you're off in a different world. I don't know.
It's so this whole, like, it's so interesting. Just like not like that world is so different. And you're absolutely right. It's like, I remember having a conversation, I was like in Austin or something, and like they were just talking about the industry and just like how people were like lowballing, newer guys or people who were like getting on the road, and then it was just kind of setting prices. So it was like this whole thing.
That's
and
a
then
big
somehow
thing.
We got into like some other stuff, but and I remember I had been drinking, so I had some sort of opinion based on, in retrospect, absolutely nothing, because I knew nothing. And the person got like really angry with me because they're like how, like, you don't know this, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, yeah, sure I do. Like, no, I don't. Like, I did not. But yeah. So I feel like that's something that I learned, at least, it's like, don't assume to know what other people are going through.
For sure. Yeah.
It's step number one.
For sure. Yeah. But the lowballing thing, so here's the funny thing. So there's not many guitar techs around where I live, right? There's like a couple like old dudes, but I don't even really know them. I've just heard their name. Maybe they know one other person. So there's also a tour manager that lives down the street, and we had a whole conversation on his porch about hiring these young kids that are thirsty to get into this work because they're so cheap or whatever, and how it's like ruining us, all the older folk that have been around, because we can't find work, and we're not working or whatever. We had that whole conversation. So I was supposed to start working with the band that he works with, and I was like super stoked. How long ago was this? Maybe a year ago or something. So I was pretty thirsty to get back on the road from not being able to work because of my hand. So I'm at the bar where I hang out or whatever, and so this kid comes in, and he apparently used to work there. And so he's like talking to everybody there, and then he comes up to me, he's like, hey, I'm so-and-so, but, you know, I heard you were a guitar tech, and you're like the only guy around, but I just got my first job, you know, so I wanted to get, you know, your insight on it and your tips, and like, you know, could you show me what to do and whatever? And I'm like, yeah, totally, man, that's rad, you know, so happy for you. He's like, what band are you going out with? He's like, X band that I was supposed to be going out with. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
No.
You have to be kidding me. Yeah.
Slap.
Just like, I can't even believe this. Can't even believe that just happened.
And isn't that something that just happens? I mean, it happens like in every industry. I mean, like interns, like unpaid internships. Like, what?
Yeah.
Really? You know, like there's like influencers on the internet, like hiring minions basically to do their bidding because all they want is like the followers. It's like, we are just like depreciating everything. It's wild. Like, that is not sustainable.
Goes along with graphic design too, man. There's always going to be somebody that's going to charge cheaper, you know, and it sucks.
Yeah, we need to raise our standards, man. Like, that's not cool.
Like, I don't claim to be a good designer at all. I think I'm kind of crappy, but I mean, I try to do quality work for people because I understand that my whole thing is I'm not going to give you something awful and have you paid $200 for it. You know. That'd be rude to you. So, but there's always somebody that could do it for free and just give you something.
So much thirst.
Yeah.
Damn. Ugh. Well, I'm glad we brought.
That's like a whole other topic.
Yeah. I'm glad we brought it up though, because it definitely it was one of the things I remember, like one of the conversations that got heated that like I really do remember, and it had to do with that. It had to do with lowballing. You know, for work and like for these skilled things.
Well, I mean, it's a big thing. Like I told you about like the levels or whatever, and I always wanted to get up to that Beck level. You know, that's like the dream level because everybody that's in that level, you know, understands the whole gig and everything, and you're never gonna see like a super green kid guitar teching for Beck. It's never gonna happen. Just because he took a low amount of money, you know, they know that they have to get somebody in there that's going to do the job, that knows how to do the job, that they'll pay him whatever.
Yeah, paying for quality.
But once you get in on that level, like it always seems like I see the same guys on multiple different tours. You know, they're all in the same. They just go from one tour to the next tour or whatever, and they're always working. And that was kind of the dream. It's like to always be working because I get with these bands and get on these tour cycles that, you know, after 2 years and they're like, we're going to take some time off and write a record. You've got nothing going on. So you're back at home. And if you don't find another tour, then you're just back at home and only word of mouth is going to carry you in this industry, you know. And once that word of mouth kind of stops, that's when you stop touring and stop getting tours as much.
Yeah, it's like a constant hustle.
Yeah, and then it kind of reverts you back down to this other level where these other kids that are newer and they're going to take less money, so we're worried about budget and this, so let's just take this kid, you know, screw it, it's going to be a small tour anyways. And so that kid gets the tour, you know, and then I'm still sitting at home on the couch.
Yeah, damn. And isn't there a school, like Full Sail or something I've heard about that's like...
For like touring folk?
Yeah, like touring jobs and stuff, I know, but I remember hearing about that, and it's like, it's basically like they train you to do like various jobs in the industry, like in production and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then, but like a lot of them will like show up.
I think I've heard of that.
They'll like show up with like, you know, it's them because they'll show up with like a clipboard and like, you know, and it's just, it's very much like, it's not so much like doing the work and like working your way up like it has been traditionally. It's more just like, you go and you get like certified or something, and then all of a sudden like
Like getting a temp or something.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's like there's so much, and it's so weird.
That's weird.
It's all so strange. But
I can see it for like production and things like that. Like, but maybe not for guitar teching.
Yeah, because it's more like a skilled, like practiced job, right? Like something you would apprentice for.
Like one of the first things I did when I was a kid, when I got that guitar for Christmas, is like I took it apart. You know, and I put it back together, and I remember my grandma was like, "Oh, you got it back together!" It's like, yay! I'm like 6 or something, or 7, I don't know. But like, so I've always been like working on things and tinkering on things, and then I started working on guitar pedals and amps and things. So that's how I kind of went from A to B on that, like, which is kind of logical.
So we're out of time, and I wanted to ask you before we got done what's a piece of advice that you want to give to somebody else, or that you think would be helpful? Anything that you've learned that can help?
Don't smoke. That's a big thing. It's so strange. Like, it didn't used to be like this before, and I've been a smoker for years, but it was never so frowned upon, I guess. But you could smoke in the front of the bus by like the driver or whatever. But like, that's kind of changing, and now they don't really let you do that.
Huh.
So, but then you're gonna feel like shit on the bus all night because you can't have a cigarette and you're angry.
Yeah, that almost forces you to go cold turkey, huh?
Sort of, yeah. No, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a word of advice or something. Can't really think of anything. Just keep getting your name out there is like the main thing. That's how you keep going. That's how you keep finding these jobs, and you keep doing it. And it's the same with graphic design and freelancing. It's just a thing with freelance, depending on how you work freelance or whatever. But just keep your name out there, rolling.
Yeah, keep that hustle up, and don't lowball. Right. And don't smoke, so you don't.
That's more of a message to tour managers, like the lowball thing.
Oh yeah. Good, yeah. You know, hopefully they're listening. Yeah. We'll see. All right. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. It was so great catching up with you. You have such an interesting story.
Sorry, it rambles sometimes.
Oh no, it's awesome. That's exactly what this is about. So, hopefully we'll have you back on at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Thank you so much, Nick. Have a good night.
Right.
Bye.
Here are the key takeaways from my conversation with Nick Bataran. 1. When life deals you a bad hand, don't lose hope and do your best to wait it out. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. 2. Enjoy the fun at the beginning of your career, because as you mature in the industry, you'll learn to love alone time a lot more. 3. The business gets serious once you get serious with it. Leveling up is fully dependent on how much you put in. 4. A glass of wine can help get you through a flight, but once you get to a professional level of touring, sobriety, at least during the show, becomes an expectation. 5. Don't smoke, and don't lowball your salaries. Raise your standards. Thank you so much for joining us on The Tour Life. Please remember to rate and review the show on Apple and Spotify to help us elevate these important conversations. Join our community and get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content. And you'll also be the first to hear about upcoming events and giveaways by connecting with us on socials at The Tour Life Podcast and at Q101 Chicago.
Every story eventually comes to an end. This June, hear the final episode of Season 2 of the hit podcast series In the Red Clay, Durham. In the Red Clay tells the unbelievable true story of Billy Sunday Burt, the most dangerous man in Georgia history. In the podcast that people are calling riveting, incredibly moving, captivating, and addicting. Binge Seasons 1 and 2 of In the Red Clay now, wherever you listen.